Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. In 2022-23, for the first time in a long time, Arsenal looked like genuine title contenders. Led by Mikel Arteta's strong philosophy and even stronger leadership, the Gunners currently lie in first, and look good both in attack and defense. But why have Arteta's tactics been so impressive this season? Let's take a look. The strong start to the season was predicated by a successful transfer period. Fabio Vieira came in for £32 million from FC Porto to give the midfield some depth. But the three signings who have made a bigger impact are Zinchenko from City before his recent injury spell, Gabriel Jesus also from City who has made the centre forward position his own, as well as a player who technically already was on the Arsenal books, William Saliba, and has come back from his loan with Marseille. And Arteta has a clear preferred first 11, which has helped things, with that team looking like this. Zinchenko's injury woes have meant that Tomiyasu and Tierney have seen their fair share of minutes. Either way, Arsenal have averaged the youngest starting 11 in the league, showing that this Arsenal side could be a threat well beyond this season. And we'll first look at the Gunners in possession, where they've seen a rise in possession from 52% to close to 57%. And for the most part, Arsenal look to build up short, and have been quite flexible in how they do it. When the opposition shape makes it difficult to build through the centre, the Arsenal fullbacks start deep in order to be their easy outlets, usually drawing the wingers higher up the pitch. In these phases, the 8 will make the move into the space vacated by the winger in order to receive. The winger's positioning can usually discourage the fullback from pressing, as if he does, the winger could then easily be played in behind. But when the opposition fullback remains deep, this will then allow the Arsenal midfielder to turn, and the presence of Gabriel Jesus is key in these phases, as when he does remain high, a midfielder would have been able to make his way across to the Arsenal 8. But Jesus is perfectly comfortable in these midfield positions, so we do often see him drop into the midfield in this phase, so that if the opposition midfielder moves towards Odegaard for example, Jesus can drop in to receive. But if that passing lane is covered instead, now the 8 can drive forward and potentially have a 2 versus 1 against the fullback, so he can find his teammate in space. Alternatively, under pressure, having initially started with Thomas Partey being the single pivot, we can see either of these 8s around him drop in temporarily to be the second pivot, as they are both happy in these deeper positions to be the outlet. Again, this is aided by Jesus often dropping into the midfield, forcing the midfielder to pick between pressing the Arsenal dropping man, at which point there's potential for Jesus to receive, but if he remains deep, the first line of pressure has now been easily bypassed. But their structure higher up the pitch is where things get truly interesting. Arteta wears his influence from Pep Guardiola on his sleeve, also opting for a 2-3-5 shape in attack. But it is the role of each player that makes the system so effective. Last season, on occasion, we did see Arteta try this shape, but the makeup of his fullbacks was not ideal. This is because, of course, this shape does call for the use of inverted fullbacks, a role that Zinchenko in particular has thrived in, having experience doing so at City. So his stats versus other fullbacks make for favourable reading, completing more passes and at a better percentage than 97% of fullbacks, as well as playing more progressive passes than 97% of fullbacks. The presence and impressive form of Saliba at centre-back has also seen White move to right-back, and therefore inverted full-back. And during his time at Brighton, White did occasionally start at defensive midfield, so these zones are nothing unfamiliar to him. The inverted full-backs have now allowed Arsenal to use both Xhaka and Odegaard much higher up, instead of just Odegaard. So the inverted full-backs, free 8 as well as Jesus, who is happy to drop into the midfield, often allow Arsenal to have a central overload. But the roles of these midfielders are still different. Partey has now become the metronome, so it is his responsibility as the deepest man to always make himself available to receive a simple pass from the defenders, so that Partey can then use his ability to make the trickier progressive passes. Partey's increased responsibility also shows up in the numbers. So of the midfield 3, Partey has the most touches, attempted passes, as well as being the target of receiving a pass most often. As discussed, when the ball is deeper, both of these 8s are happy to drop in, but for the most part, Arteta would favour Odegaard to remain higher and Xhaka to be the man to make the sacrifice and drop deep. This is also because where White has been an ever-present, Zinchenko has been in and out, And while both Tomiyasu and Tierney have performed the role admirably at times, it's not at the same level as Zinchenko. So Xhaka will take up this position at times, with the fullback becoming more traditional. If the centre is clogged in general though, Xhaka can also look to pull out wide left to get some space on the ball. So Xhaka generally sees more of the ball in deeper regions than Odegaard. But higher up the pitch, the roles of the two are again different. Odegaard is still in spirit a traditional 10, so in the final third, although the two basically have the same overall touches per game, Odegaard gets most of his touches higher up, as well as receiving more progressive passes. And once again high up, he likes to operate in tight spaces, and he has an excellent relationship with Saka, who he'll often play in after drawing men to himself, or even rotate positions with. And as an incisive passer, Odegaard also consistently has an eye out for the likes of Jesus and Martinelli higher up. So Odegaard has more key passes, shot creating actions, and passes into the box per 90 than Xhaka. Xhaka's role high up is more functional, but it is a vital function. His role is to be much more of a runner, which makes him an overall creative threat and a goal threat. He functions with Martinelli, and time and again he looks to make these runs through the half space, where he can receive a ball from Martinelli and get a low cross in. Alternatively, if he's drawn the fullback away, this now makes space for Martinelli to cut in. But whenever the ball is on the far side in particular, Xhaka makes runs into the box, adding an extra body there who's looking to get a shot on goal. So Xhaka gets more touches in the box. And most of Odegaard's numbers are pretty similar to last season, as he is essentially still a 10, but Xhaka profiles completely differently. His shots per 90 have risen slightly, but more importantly, now further up the pitch, he shoots more from much closer to goal. In addition, being higher up the pitch means he makes less overall passes than last season, and he also does less progressive passes, but has more key passes. Now with the free 8s in these positions, Saka and Martinelli, initially at least, hug the touchline. This positioning has often seen Arsenal looking to switch the ball out towards the wingers, and these 1 versus 1 situations that Arsenal create, combined with the freedom Arteta gives his wide men, means that both are happy to look to attack their man, especially when coming in onto their strong foot, and both attempt over 4 dribbles per game. And Arteta's fullbacks from these positions are not stationary. Ben White in particular will often look to make the late overlapping run to create a 2 versus 1. If the fullback stays with Saka, White will have a crossing opportunity, but if he drops deep, Saka can then cut in for the shot or cross. All of this is spearheaded by the ever-busy Jesus, who is always looking to get into good positions to receive the ball and started the season like a house on fire. But although the goals have slowed down as of late, his previously discussed on-the-ball ability means he is still crucial. Arsenal are one of the best defences in the league so far, and this starts in the defensive transitions. The previously discussed central overloads means that they're in a good position to counter-press as they can quickly swarm around the man with the ball. So Arsenal's improved defensive performance has seen their passes per defensive action drop from over 12 last season to just 10. But even from more structured pressing scenarios, Arsenal are still quite impressive. Their 4-3-3 quickly changes shape, and we see Jesus beginning the press, and depending on the side of the ball, he's joined either by Martinelli or Saka to form a front 2 to pressure the centre-backs. And in these phases, Arsenal will essentially switch to a back 3, with the fullback pushing high to cover and the other defenders rotating to create a 3. This is partly facilitated by the arrival of Saliba, whose pace allows Arsenal to push high as he can cover a lot of space. And the midfield from here can adapt. If the opposition uses a single pivot, Odegaard is in the perfect position to tie him up. If they use a double pivot and Arsenal are looking to press high, the extra midfielder can then join, making them hard to play through. And if Arsenal have to defend for prolonged periods, we see Odegaard and Jesus create a front 2, and the team in general form a 4-4-2. Arteta's Arsenal are a serious threat this season, but whether they'll be able to keep up their form for a whole season is a different matter. But what do you make of this side? Drop it down below.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out.
And a special thanks to my patrons, including Justin Robinson, Per Sandstrom, and Moez Ben Darby. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.